Okay, yeah, so we are streaming. Maureen had just put in the chat that she's just here to listen.
Okay.
So I don't know if Duncan or the person that's on the phone, if they wanted to say anything, but they have the ability to speak.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. This is just Richard. This is just Richard Kendall. I'm just joining you from the road.
Oh, okay. So you're the phone.
I'm on the phone this time. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Well, we can count you as participating in the meeting, and I think that makes a quorum. And we can begin the meeting. And according to the outline here, we are called to order. The first item of business was an update on the Green Community Project status. And that's why we've invited Ron and Margaret to join us. Ron last month gave a very brief summary. I asked him only a few days before the meeting to give us an update, but I think we'll get a more complete update on current, future, and what we might propose as phase two activities. So if either one of you would like to start addressing those topics, we would certainly appreciate it.
Margaret, if you don't mind, maybe I'll just jump in and talk about the one issue that's currently at hand. So we did recently complete a compressed air survey at the water treatment plant. Actually, Margaret and I received the study this afternoon, and there are leaks and inefficiencies that, if repaired, could reduce energy at the site. And so the next step will be to look at those different deficiencies and see what type of engineering work will be required to make it happen. And then also do an analysis of the benefits to see if it passes muster with the green communities criteria. And so that's what we're kind of working on. And to me, this is one of the few buildings in town that we have that's not brand new, that is a significant energy user and is ripe for improvements. Margaret, anything else you want to say about that particular project? Thank you. That's the one big item that I'm working on right at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other smaller projects that are ongoing, or can we get a summary of what projects have been done under the green community?
Well, quite frankly, since COVID hit, this has really been the only one that we're currently working on. Now, Margaret may have other information about things we might tackle in the future, but right at the moment, that's the one that's being focused.
Well, I think we would like to know briefly about what the past projects were, ones that have been completed, how far we are through the funding, and what prospects we might have for projects after we spend the money that the first tranche of money for communities.
So
either one of you?
Last year was really the big push to install all the LED lighting And quite frankly, we're just kind of, we're just frankly swamped with other non-green communities related projects right at the moment. But, you know, one of the things we're looking at also from the town is trying to improve our vehicle fleet. But what we're finding is we're okay with hybrid vehicles at town hall. But the next one is first responder vehicles, whether it be police or DPW, and trying to find the right vehicle that will give us a hybrid for more credit. And the problem is, you know, if you buy a pickup truck and you want to comply with green communities and get it hybrid, you got to get a top end pickup truck. And that's typically not what the town does when we buy equipment. We buy it for more for work and go and not for show. And you're not going to get those hybrid options in the lower tier things. So that's one of the things that John Kelly, our town administrator, is working on right at the moment. That's about it for green communities that I'm aware of. Margaret, do you have anything else you can say?
The only thing I wanted to add is that I believe that Kevin Galligan sent along the annual report to you folks. Did you guys receive that?
Green Community Report?
Yes, I believe he called it his homework.
I have not received it. I don't know.
I saw it.
I got it.
Yeah, it came today in an email from Kevin.
Oh, okay. I didn't see today's email, so
Susan's showing it to you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I just wanted to highlight is that this is a requirement of green communities every year. Many thanks to Ron for all of the data that needs to come in. But a lot of the questions that you're asking, some of that is highlighted in that report. So I just wanted to give you a couple of highlights from that verbally, if that's okay with you.
sure, that would be good.
Sure. So our baseline in Orleans was FY16. And at that time, the total MMBTU usage was a little under 19,000 MMBTU. By the time that we have submitted our 2020 usage, I'm proud to say that we have, the town has reduced that by 10%, which was great news. So you are making strides. I will say that that's primarily in water, sewer, and vehicles. As you might remember, this includes buildings, open space, street lights and traffic lights, vehicles, and water, sewer. Those are the categories that DOER prescribes. And so they're looking at that whole picture. Since that time, as Ron alluded to, we've done some of the lighting projects, which have brought down some of the usage there. But also, as Ron noted, you know, the water and sewer is really, that's a really significant usage. So it makes a lot of sense, given this documentation and reporting, to really focus on that project. And so I think Ron's been sort of looking at the heavy hitters, so to speak. And so that's primarily what that does. So that table that I was referencing was on table 8. If you're interested in the specific economics of those particular projects that we were talking about, the lighting and some of the vehicle fleet, that's on page 11 of that report. So it actually goes through each of the projects, the lighting projects that were undertaken, as well as any active projects, including, you know, some of the water treatment efforts.
One thing, Margaret, if you don't mind, I'd like to add in, I forgot about.
Absolutely.
Margaret and I worked together to secure a $12,000 grant specifically to look at a renewable energy strategy. We engaged Weston and Sampson engineers to do that study. And I'm currently working through the initial steps of it. And basically, we're looking at what buildings in town we can target for solar. And we're looking at basically, I'll just do it offhand, DPW, the elementary school, police station, town hall, the compost facility, ground mount facility, and then also there is a vacant rapid infiltration bed at the wastewater treatment plant. Those are the key projects looking at potentially. But not only that, but the strategy, even if we do all those, we still have, I would say, almost a megawatt worth of renewable energy appetite out there once the wastewater treatment plants come online. The treatment plant, the past wastewater treatment plant was basically neck and neck with the water treatment plant. Both of them are by far the biggest users in Orleans. And so when they come on board, so if you look at our cap landfill, that's a 0.5 meg. So we're looking at basically doubling the size, which we don't have the property. So then part of this renewable energy strategy is what's
You're talking about the solar that we have.
All right. So we do not have the land to do another ground mount system of any magnitude. So then the strategy is what's the best thing? Off-taker purchase, going through towns individually. Truro has a need to get rid of or sell power, and also through the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative. So that will be part of that strategy, and that will be shared, of course, with your committee and the public as soon as that's available. It's in progress.
And what is the timing on that?
I would say we'll have the report wrapped up probably realistically, I'm going to say realistically within 2 months. So probably by June 1st, I would say.
Okay, so possibly we could.
But one of the things
get that and have that
once we have that report, then this is something the town's going to have to consider: is it more advantageous to take on projects ourselves and develop these projects, or is it better to go to a third-party off-taker like Cape and Vineyard Electric? So those are kind of the things in the portfolio that hopefully will give the town direction to move forward.
Okay, well, we forward to getting information on that.
I have a question. Again, I'm a newbie. When you say you're going, either the town takes responsibility or you're thinking about a third party, do you ever do it together with another town? I mean, are there ever sort of joint projects like with Eastham and Brewster?
Would we join with another town?
Yeah.
I would say that from a municipal agreement, the easiest path right now is through the Cape and Vineyard Electric Cooperative, because we are a member of the co-op. We did go outside with the initiative of this committee for an off-taker project in Freetown, Mass. And so what we need to do is just find out what is the most economical path going forward. I will say that Truro, for instance, they have an excess capacity of energy credits, and they're having a tough time selling those to another municipality. So the market is somewhat saturated, but it's, we're fortunate with the major infrastructure projects that we have that we'll be able to go out and hopefully team up with another entity.
Okay, thanks.
And the last thing we want to do is be accumulating excess credits because you're paying for those credits.
What do you mean exactly by accumulating excess credits?
Well, what happens is, in most of these clauses, it's a take or pay. You
Oh.
take the credits or you pay for them anyway. And so the
Okay.
last thing you want to do is be accumulating all kinds of credits and then trying to dump past credits on another buyer.
Okay. Has this been an issue that,
Hey, Richard, can you put your phone on mute, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
the excess credit?
It is not an issue for the town of Orleans, but it has been with other towns.
Okay, is there anything further on the green community project activities?
Kevin, may I ask a question?
Sure.
This is for Margaret, maybe more than for Ron. With the passage of the new Energy Act for the Commonwealth, what, if anything, in there relates to green communities and solar aggregation for municipalities?
Great question, and we're still trying to figure out everything in that legislation and how it will affect us. So one of the prime things that we've been asked about is the net zero stretch code, and how that applies to existing green communities. In the beginning, there was a concern from many municipalities that they would all have to adopt the new net zero stretch code. You know, some folks were concerned that we weren't going to be ready in enough time. It is explicitly called out that it is an opt-in for communities and that it won't affect or won't be a requirement for green communities. So you will not have to adopt that. You can choose to, but you don't have to. The other thing that happens in this legislation, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what it will mean, is that they've added wording that says that we should include the societal cost of carbon. That in theory should make things more cost effective, or at least tilt the scales to things that are going to be more in line with electrification, as an example. The only thing is that we don't know exactly what that value is or how it's exactly going to be determined. That's a conversation right now with DEP and DOER that we're trying to get clarification on that front, and what that will mean. And then the last thing, at least that's sort of top of mind for me, is that this legislation gives DOER, EEA, the authority to come up with goals for the programs. And it has a deadline for that. Again, though, because we don't know exactly how that will be and exactly how they'll formulate that and what those numbers will be, I'm not entirely clear yet how that will impact the program. Does that help? Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know what a net zero stretch code, what are you calling it?
Yeah, so this is a new, it's newly introduced. So, and I apologize, I might be frozen. So if I look still to you, hopefully you can still hear my voice. So one of the things that many communities across the Commonwealth have been doing is that they have been looking at a net zero code for their own municipalities. And one of the questions for folks has been, we don't, builders, building officials, they're very hesitant to have multiple codes by each town, because then you have to learn so many of them. And so it can be very confusing to enforce and or figure out how to meet it. So this was a way for the state to come up with one code, again, it'll be optional, the opt-in, that will require the buildings in that community to be as close to zero net usage as possible. Does that help to explain that? I'm sorry if I sort of jumbled that a bit, but.
That's what the code is, but what are the consequences and or rewards for complying with this code?
With the net zero stretch energy
The
code?
net zero stretch code.
Sure. So the penalty is that your home would not pass. So you may not be able to live there. I think that's really the penalty, right? That's why they have the codes. Right now, one of the question marks that we have in terms of our programs is that years ago, there was an agreement by the state that even though the stretch code as it exists now, not the net zero stretch code, but the stretch code that you folks have adopted, which is a little bit above the code, there was an agreement that our baseline would not change. So we give incentives. So if the baseline's here and an efficiency is here, I can pay for the delta and claim that savings. So there was an agreement that we could do that. As we move forward, I don't exactly know, mainly because we haven't had the conversation yet about what the stretch code and then now the net zero stretch code will be. So is my baseline still here and I'll be able to reward both stretch code and net zero? Or does this baseline need to move up? So that's kind of an open question. Right now, the promulgation of that net zero stretch code isn't until September of 22. So we have a little bit of time to have that conversation, but it will be curious to see, you know, where we land in there. So if we are able to use a standard baseline against that net zero, then there could be an incentive from us, Cape Light Compact and National Grid, if you have natural gas, to build to that higher standard. So that's potentially the carrot, but there's definitely a stick in this one. Okay.
Are there any other topics under this this first topic, this report on the green communities? Has there been any thought to future proposals? And I'm also curious, I don't think I've gotten an answer to this. How far along are we in terms of spending the money? And, well, not exactly awarded. I know you get the money after you spend it. How far along are we towards expending the Green Community Project budget?
Tron, quite frankly, we're not spending any money right at the moment. And like I say, we're in this conundrum. We have old buildings that don't really, we don't want to spend a lot of money on old buildings to give them very minimal energy savings. So right now it's a water treatment plant is the focus. So the money's there, and hopefully we'll come up with a significant amount, enough project that will really put a dent in that. But I don't believe that we're in jeopardy of losing money, are we, Margaret? Or maybe you can tell me that. We're not going to lose it, but we're not going to get any more until we spend it.
That's accurate.
Okay, so at this point, with not counting any water plant project or anything, we've spent very little of it. Is that correct?
35,000, Margaret, in that range, somewhere in there. We've taken credit, I think, for 30.
So I have to add the water treatment survey, well, the latest survey, but I had about 19,000 that was spent. so
Okay.
far.
Oh, you know what? So some of the projects that were originally going to be done under Green Communities, Cape Lake Compact did.
Yes, exactly. It was originally 35, but because those lighting projects got zeroed out, that was why.
Right. We were able to take credit for those initiatives, but it wasn't, when it didn't go through our coffers.
Correct.
Okay,
Total, what do you have to spend?
Say it again, please.
What do you have to spend? So you've spent 19,000 out of what?
Oh, we probably got over $100,000 right now. And
Okay,
if we go with a new compressor in our wastewater, in our water treatment plant, that will put a real dent in that.
the total grant was in the order of $100,000.
135, Margaret, something in there.
Sorry, I'm just pulling it up for you guys. I just don't
Oh.
want to misspeak based upon the numbers. But for whatever reason, my computer always loves to freeze exactly when I'm being asked a question. So I apologize for that. I can get back to you guys in just a second on that. But yes, I know that it was in the magnitude of about 130. The exact amount is what is escaping me.
Okay, well, we don't need a precise.
Okay.
Now, my understanding is that the well fleet has gone through a few iterations of green communities. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what kind of projects have they done to qualify for the?
Sure.
Green
And I don't have all of Wellfleet in front of me, but they've gone through
No.
3 separate rounds. So one was their designation round. They did a variety of building projects. Their second round was the renovation of the police station. They weren't building out, but they were doing interior renovations, and it covered that the new police station. And then the latest that they are actively in, they're doing a lighting project, an EMS system at the school, and I'm going off of memory here, guys, so sorry, and a couple of other smaller projects. They're actively doing those now. There's a question on the EMS project, but I will note that Wellfleet has been a green community for quite a bit longer than Orleans, just so you know.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't expecting you guys to be in round 3. That would have been very aggressive.
Yeah. Well, you're saying that, aren't we doing extensive renovations to the HVAC for the fire station? Is that, Ron, is that a fact or am I misinformed?
No, we are. Unfortunately, they're not energy. Basically, we're putting in a dedicated outside air handler to increase it, but it is not a quote unquote energy savings initiative right at the moment. This is just to get more fresh air into the building.
Okay, and that would not qualify.
It's not really, it's, if you were to design a new building with a current code, that would not be the system that you'd put in. But that was understood going in by the select board when they voted for that project.
So none of the fire station activities would be able to get any funding, green communities.
Not right at the moment. Furthermore, we're just starting to undertake a $100,000 feasibility study for some dramatic improvement to the fire station operations. And so that's going to basically upset the apple cart, hopefully within a couple of years when we undertake that work.
Ron, you mentioned the water treatment plant. What's the dollar amount and timeline on that?
What I'll do is, I would say hopefully tomorrow, let me send it over to Kevin and he can distribute it to the committee members so you can see it. But we're just right in the, it just came in today. I mean, I've skimmed through it. And hopefully if we could at some point do new compressor upgrades, they're probably an easy $50,000 a pop and we need 2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, the Rise has not yet gotten the full pricing. We're hoping to get that soon. And I did just want to follow up that the total grant is $134,709. So.
Well, your rough guess of 135 was pretty good.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd say you're in a good margin of error.
So the water treatment plant compressors could eat up 100,000 easily.
And including, well, we just did a dryer project, but there's also a question with the receivers too. So it's definitely a worthwhile energy savings project to look at.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. And if I may interject, I do just want to give a little bit of perspective. So not every town, but a lot of the towns on the Cape and Vineyard have been doing these projects for a really long time, especially the electric work. And in those scenarios, we've seen towns struggle to find projects that are cost effective that aren't large capital projects, right? Because a lot of those large capital projects are what you need to do, but green communities often rejects those because the savings is not commensurate with the cost. And so we've seen towns like West Tisbury take 7 years, 6-7 years to get done because they have to keep going at the well and saying, okay, what about this project? Can we get that one to be cost effective? And then they say, oh, it's not, or they find out in some cases that Cape Light Compact can pay for it 100%, which is what Ron found. So then that kind of takes a little bit of the sales out. At the end of the day, I just want to reiterate, there's no penalty. They don't take the money away. It's not like they discount it all of a sudden, or they say you're in bad standing. So I just wanted to give that context, especially if there are people viewing this, so that they don't, feel like they're, behind. People naturally feel a little bit competitive. And I just want to say, you guys have been running this race for a long time, which is why, some people get through their cycles very quickly because they've had lighting projects and quick projects they've never been able to address. And you guys have been doing them for quite some time. So even when we got here and we did some lighting projects, they were fairly small, as you can tell by the total.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee members for the?
Can I share one more thing with you about energy savings in Orleans? So on Old Colony Way at Depot Square, we have an EV charging station. And I believe we're the first public charging station between P-Town and Hyannis. And that was installed last year. And so it was partially funded with Green Communities money. And we also received, it was called the Make Ready program by Eversource. And what they did is they looked at the site, they determined it was a reasonable site, and they put in the electrical infrastructure through the distribution panel, the pad mounted distribution panel. And then we took it from there to hook up the charging station. And so what happened is we've had it running for a year. And we cannot sell the electricity at a reasonable amount to cover the costs for the continuation of the interconnection fee and the maintenance fee. Well, I should say extended warranty and phase. And that comes to about $1,300 a year. And I think this year we've grossed $500 worth of electricity. So we're in a conundrum right now, and Margaret's aware of this, and other towns are, that the cost right now, we cannot provide electricity that will be acceptable to the public using it unless we do another subsidized effort. It's subsidized from the federal to get it halfway there, but now locally we've got to subsidize it. And this is a struggle within the administration of the town. Is we don't want to be in a situation where we're putting taxpayer dollars in to subsidize a charging station for non-taxpayers to use it, for the general public to use it. And so it's a nice initiative. Everybody thought it was good to go. And now we're finding out that, maybe the passing of COVID will change things, but we're not making enough money to make that thing self-sufficient, that's for sure. And what's kind of interesting is, so I learned a little thing. Right now, let's say that roughly all in, we're roughly, I'm going to say 21 cents a kilowatt hour. And so we have to pay not only do we have to pay a connection fee of about $640 a year, but we also pay the vendor charge point 10% for every transaction. And they handle the credit card and the billing, and it's nice. They give you a monthly reports. It's very much needed because obviously we're not in the business to go out there and have that system ourselves. So 21 cents plus 10%, plus, we've got to try to maintain some additional monies. So I ended up right now setting the fee at 28.3 cents a kilowatt hour to run that. And so
that's the customer charge.
What's that?
The end user, the customer charge?
The end user customer charge is 28.3 cents a kilowatt hour. And so the general analogy is at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, it's $1 a gallon of gas. 20 cents, $2 a gallon. 30. So it's kind of easy. So right now, what was a shot in the dark at 28.3 cents, and that was my multiplying, pretty much 283 a gallon is kind of where we are in the community. I did get gas last night. I ride my bike to work every day, so I'm an energy saver, but I had to throw some in for my wife, and I think it was 289. So right there. So even to cover this year's funds, we would have to be up in the $8, $9 a gallon range, and nobody's going to sign up for that. Even at 50 cents a kilowatt hour, at $5, people that are savvy enough with their EV cars, they would look right at the pricing as they hooked on, and they're going to say, well, we're not going to use this thing for much. Might get them out of the lot, but they're not going to tank up their vehicle at those rates. So here's a Green Communities initiative that we're trying to figure out how to make be self-sustainable. That's really about the last thing.
That's a real issue.
Is that the case?
I mean,
is that the case?
On a national level, the infrastructure for electric vehicles is a big issue. Here we are down in the weeds at the town level.
Right.
And we see some of the reasons.
And so I'm sure Margaret, she doesn't have to say anything, but she'll nod her head in agreement. Other towns, when I started bringing this up, are now asking me, well, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? And one of the island towns was going to do more stations. And my take is right now, let's not do any more public EV stations in town till we can figure out how to make the first one cost effective. The thoughts were about going down to Nauset Beach, or we can't do it on, I guess we could do it at a beach parking lot, but if we can't sell electricity next to the Hot Chocolate Sparrow and the bike trail, then we're going to have a hard time at other locations. Not only do you need the proper space, but you need something level so you can have it handicap accessible. And if you think about the different parking lots in town, behind 44 Main Street, the community building, it's not level. 139 Main Street, the old town hall annex, it's level. but it's not really a place where anybody's going to want to go and hang out for 2 hours. So we're very much constrained about how we're going to sell EV in this town.
So
That's it for
Ron,
that one.
are the EV costs for the charging station, are they variable costs based on the electricity that's consumed there? Or are they fixed costs because of the annual fees?
Well, I can adjust as one of the administrators for the station. I can change the value at any time. But right now it is a fixed fee per kilowatt hour. And then I also put in a sit time that after an hour of a full charge, then we will start charging that customer $5 an hour. Because let's say somebody comes in first thing in the morning and they're going to ride the bike trail for the day and they hook up their car and figure they'll go for a ride and then come back. So I know like McMillan Wharf in Provincetown, they had big issues with people that, you know, that's a high value parking space. And people, when they first put their station on, we're sitting there. And now all of a sudden, Margaret, now we understand why Provincetown had such an issue trying to come up with that sweet spot of how much to sell the electricity. And I'm sure that they found out pretty quick that they couldn't make the thing work at current market rates. Anyway, it's trust me, for the amount of money right now, we're and I'm going to send Margaret a bill today. Hopefully we can get some reimbursement from the green communities. But without a local subsidy, that thing is not economically viable. Martin, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, I was curious. Do you have any indication of how much, what do you call it, wait time or sit time the product was actually being used?
The sit time, it's very minimal. I mean, we actually get a profile of every customer interaction. And I would say that on average, they're there less than 2 hours. And 2 hours on a what's called a level 2 charger gives, I'm going to say the average Prius probably pretty much a full charge.
No, I mean,
So-
but on a weekly basis, is it 10% of the time it's being used or 90% of the time being used?
Well, let me do this. I will put together some charts so you can see how that profile works. And I'll share that back with the committees so you can have that for next time. But it's kind of interesting. ChargePoint does do a good job, and you'll see day to day how that thing is used.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate Margaret and Ron being here today.
Okay.
Very good. So on to the next topic.
All right. If you're all set with me, Kevin, I have coursework tonight. And
I
as a professor
understand.
from,
I would not interfere with your WPI coursework.
I don't have Kevin,
Oh.
but I have an associate of his tonight. Thank you. Good night.
Okay,
See you.
I'll also
Thank
take
you.
my leave unless you guys need me
yes,
for
okay.
anything.
Thank you, Margaret, for coming.
Thank you very much.
We talked about the committee charge, it's a new committee charge. Said, I didn't have a copy of it once, and I was tardy in getting that charge. Yes, I've got it now. So Kevin Galligan sent it to me, and basically what he says he did, what the selectmen did, was they took the old renewable energy committee charge and they appended onto that some climate issues, specifically the climate change preparedness and work with the shellfishing community and build on the town's hazard mitigation plan and encourage and coordinate emergency planning at the neighborhood level. So that's how the charge has changed. I also learned when he sent it to me that our committee name has not changed. It was still Orleans Renewable Energy Committee. And according to any of the town records, so.
Well, we
Yeah,
passed
last month we were told it was Orleans Environmental Sustainability and Climate Action Committee.
we passed that last month.
Right.
So
Don't we want the new?
we've got to get this back to to somebody. I'm not sure exactly.
Whoever sent it to you, send it back with the right name.
Well, that was Kevin Galligan,
Okay.
and I will discuss the naming. And we should discuss, I don't think we're going to get it done by 6 o'clock tonight, but what these additional responsibilities, how those will impact the activities of this committee. I'm not sure what we're going to do with the shellfishing community yeah.
Well,
So
I had two minor concerns just to set off this discussion.
Yeah.
I thought the very beginning, on the third paragraph, the committee shall identify, blah, blah, blah. They never use the word recycling. Isn't recycling a part of the charge? I mean, the whole idea of energy efficiency is personal recycling as well as business recycling, and it's just a huge part of it. And the word's not even there. Wouldn't that be something to, I don't want to add anymore. I think we should take out the shellfishing, but I think we should add recycling personally.
yeah, well, I think the committee focus, at least initially, was really renewable energy. In fact, it was the Wind Energy Committee when it started, my day. I don't know, were you on the committee at that time?
Who are you addressing?
Martin Chulik.
What was the question?
Were you on the original Renewable Energy Committee? And was this, it had another name. This is what I was told of the history. It was initially called the Wind Energy Committee or something like that.
No, that was before my time. I've only been on for about 4 years.
Okay, that's before my time too. But historically, my understanding is we were offered a couple of wind turbines, and the committee, this predecessor to this committee, after analyzing the situation, decided not to opt for that because of issues with noise and so on. The kind of issues that are seen in the neighborhoods of land-based wind turbines. So we never did have a wind turbine. So, and I think that prompted the name change away from the Wind Energy Committee and broadened it, but didn't broaden it to include recycling. So, but again, that's worthy of considering. So there are probably some things we should add, things we should delete from the current change, and we should find out what the status of this committee is, because what was sent to me is the current description of the committee, Um, And it was revised February of 2020, so a little over a year ago. So I think we'll have to discuss this a little bit further. And I don't know, the recycling part of it, I never thought about that, expanding the charge to,
Well,
it's certainly a valid
I
point.
don't think it actually is expanding. I just think it's under efficiency and conservation measures, you know, recycling is a huge one that is an energy, you know, related to energy. And just seems to me that you can reduce, if the goal here is to get our, you know, usage down through a variety of projects for the green community, it seems to me that increasing recycling and getting it to be more efficient is a huge and relatively easy way to reduce carbon and everything else. So I'm just surprised the word wasn't there. You
Yeah.
know, I must say that when I signed on for the committee, I got a charge at the town. The town handed me the charge of the committee, and it only had the first page. It didn't have all this other stuff. So
Yeah, I'm a bit confused, Kevin, because the date on the back is February 19th, 2020. And my thinking was that there was some conversations going on with the select board last fall that are not captured on this document.
Yeah,
So I'm going to suggest that we postpone conversation about this until we can get Richard and Paul into the meeting with us. I know Richard's driving, but I also have a commitment here in about 15 minutes.
okay. And certainly Kevin Galligan.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I will contact him in addition to whatever minutes we send out. Just tell him our state of uncertainty about the charge, committee name, the charge, whether recycling would be something that would be appropriate to consider. I think Susan's argument is valid. But we report to the select board.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And so we should kick that upstairs and see if we can get a response.
Right. Well, I mean, I get we're making recommendations, but it just seems a little
Yeah.
bit to not have that. And then I think the other thing that's a little bit odd is to add the whole shellfishing community.
Yeah, that struck me.
That's a whole nother committee, I would think.
Yeah. As it was explained to me, the selectmen just looked and said, well, what is Wellfleet doing? And because they added climate change to their committee name, and they had this in their description, of the charge. So I don't know if any more thought than that really went into this or not. So I think we have a right to give our input on what the charge of our committee is and the name, and so we'll pursue that as a committee. I'll bring this up with Kevin Galligan, know what we discussed with regard to this point. So last item on here is to review and approve the minutes. And I was gently reminded by Susan that I never sent out the minutes because, again, I don't change very easily. Usually we'd be handed the minutes at the physical meeting and we look at them and say, yeah, Yeah, okay, we approve. But, so I don't even know if you folks have had the chance to, well, obviously, it's 2 pages of minutes, and you got them an hour ago or something like that, more than an hour ago. Are there any comments or?
Yeah, I haven't looked at them yet.
Okay. So we will discuss the both meetings.
Did Martin look at them? Do you want to defer?
Margaret?
I looked at them, but I can do it either today or next month. We also, we still have the February 13th, 2020 minutes to look at as well. And, so let's just put those on the agenda for next month.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm unmuted now, Kevin. I agree.
okay. We will do that.
I can approve those because I wrote them, but I haven't seen, if anybody else hasn't seen them, we can't approve.
Right.
Thank you, Richard, for taking the notes last month.
Oh, you're welcome. Who's got this meeting?
Well, I was going to, but it's a pretty high standard. I don't know that I can meet your standard.
Well, you know what I do? As I take notes throughout the meeting, and what's nice about this being recorded is you can go back and watch the recording for anything you may have missed.
Yeah.
And then it kind of gets you to digest, especially if the meeting is complicated and it has a lot of parts and it ends up getting long.
Right. And before you got on, Sarah was nice by saying that since there's already the recording that goes on the website, that you can not have to take them quite so detailed if I don't do it as well.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
You can just go on to channel 18 at the bottom of the at the main page on the Orleans website, and it's click on channel 18, video on demand. Don't go to the archive section; you'll get lost there. That's for old stuff. But if you just go to the regular VOD, you'll see it in the most recent videos once it gets posted, which will usually take about a day.
Okay, I'll try.
We will need a volunteer for next month.
Well, Paul and I can flip coin on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Paul indicated he would be coming, but he's not here, so.
So one point of clarification that I wanted to mention when I was on mute about the shellfish.
Yeah.
I remember going to a meeting in Chatham about like for a sea level rise. So there was some sort of mitigation involved in any sort of sea level. That's maybe why the shellfishing and waterways and that kind of gets this committee into everything. If you think about it, DPW. But we have to narrow the charge so we can handle. And if we have to meet with other committees, maybe. But it's too broad of a charge ends up being too much work.
Well, my concern is that if it were something about ocean rise or, sea level rise, but it says work with the shellfishing community to develop resiliency plans specifically focused on the shellfishing industry. I mean, that it's both huge and narrow,
Correct, yeah.
I don't know that we've got the expertise to do that or know anything about that. Maybe you do, but
The only thing I know about shellfish is I enjoy them very much.
It just seemed a very big addition because on the
Yes.
one I got, there was only page 1, and now there's a lot more.
Right, because once you add the climate change component, that could be anything.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess the discussion will have to continue. I did want to ask you folks about the meeting time. The first Zoom meeting was at 5, and Sarah, I believe, was concerned that that would be overlapping and with some other Zoom meetings be ongoing. That's why I moved it first to 4:30 and then to 4 o'clock. And is that a problem for anybody?
I have a dance class that I go to at 4:30, but that's why I was hoping if we went from 5 to like 6:15, then we're not conflicting with the 6:30 FinCom. But
Well,
that is a conflict that I have.
okay. I can do it anytime in that time frame. Another reason I wanted to have it earlier today was both Ron Collins and Susan are employees. And I know Susan has some small people that she has to care for and so on. And this would require, we'd be able to have her during her working hours. And as you see, Ron Collins has some other things going on.
Well, could we do it at 4:30?
I'd be happy to do it.
And then they can leave at 5? Is that when work is over? 'Cause I can adjust.
Yeah.
If that would work better for
Okay.
me, 4:30.
All right. So it's resolved unanimously. We'll do it at 4:30. And are we?
Does that fit for everybody else?
Anybody not agree with that?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
I'm okay.
Fine. So be it resolved. Yes. Okay. So I think that's
That's our only
the
motion.
last.
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
Okay.
Excellent
In
meeting.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right,
Okay. So we were 4-0-0. 1, 2, 3, and Richard. Very good. Well, thanks. Thanks for attending. Again, it'll
Thanks,
be
Kevin.
on the second Thursday of May, which is May 13th
4:30. Perfect.
at 4:30. Okay.
Thank you.
You can put that in your notes.
Yeah, those are the two motions.